This week we're going through 50 of my favourite filmmaking tips, looking at sound, cinematography, business, and then also just general filmmaking advice. Okay, so here's the first one. Match up the clocks on your camera but also on your audio recorder so that when it comes to editing you can sort them by date and then you can really clearly see which ones go together, matching up the picture with the sound. You can find out exactly where light is coming from, whether it's reflecting or not, by just holding up something to block the light directly, rather than trying to figure out how to turn the light on or off, which is difficult, especially if it's daylight. Get all of your cables taped down and tied down. These kind of clips are much quicker than Velcro, or you could use these. Lighting is so much more than just filling a room with as much light as possible. Often it looks a lot better to have a bit of shadows, depending on what you're going for. Make a film about something that you think the world needs to hear about, whether it's anti-establishment politics or equality, whatever you care about most. The idea is that you'll enjoy it more, and so will the audience. The classic rubber band trick is actually worth using for pans and also for slider moves, especially if you want to get a really smooth start and finish. C-stands are almost as versatile as gaffer's tape. Watch the films of Alfred Hitchcock. Always have at least one person on set who is focusing on sound. Most people won't offer you a price, they'll ask you how much you charge, so you need to be ready to work it out based on how many hours you're working and whether it could be a valuable opportunity for networking or exposure. Sometimes you get it too low and sometimes you get it too high. Don't worry about it too much. As a leader, you'll need to learn how to articulate precise instructions. So rather than just saying, oh, can we move that light out of the way? Instead, try saying something like, can we move that LED towards camera left about 2 feet? Something really, really precise that is easy to follow. False colour looks really complicated, but it just assigns different colours to different brightness levels. From experimenting, I've found that my camera, the skin tones work best when they are grey, so I can set my exposure and lights accordingly. This is way more useful than histograms. Set your levels so the sound is maxing out at around -12 dB. There are no rules in filmmaking. Get the microphone close, but not too close. About 8 inches is usually good. There's a subtle difference between taking a job so that you can make money and taking a job so that you can continue to make more films. Read books every day. It's a constant practice and one of the most important parts of filmmaking, using your imagination to convert words on a page into a film in your mind. Don't use a flat picture profile when you're setting up your lights. It's a lot better to go with something that looks more natural and then switch to a flat profile as soon as you hit record. And of course, the next tip is that Magic Lantern can do this automatically. Never buy a camera that costs more than your audio or lighting gear. What's in front of the camera and behind the camera matters so much more than the camera itself. Small text tends to look really cinematic. Just imagine it on a massive cinema screen. To save you unplugging the wrong thing, be sure to label all of your cables and all of your plugs. Sometimes you have to cut corners on a few things so that you can focus on the parts of your film that are most important. Don't forget about sounds. Footsteps, clothing sounds and ambience are all absolutely essential because we pretty much never hear true silence in the real world. Watch old films, independent films, international films, but don't completely ignore the big Hollywood blockbusters. When lighting a green screen, you can overexpose and then use zebras to see where the hotspots are and then light until it's even. Learn your movement vocab. A camera can pan left or right, tilt up or down, dolly in or out, slide or track to the left or to the right, boom up or down. The best sounds aren't always where you expect them to be. Think outside the box. Whether you're talking to clients or collaborators, phone calls are usually better and more personal than emails. Give yourself some time to think. No music, no podcast, no YouTube videos, just silence so that you can sit and think without any distractions. Always bring food and drink for your cast and crew, and it certainly doesn't help to have a couple of fans in case it gets hot. So many things are easier when you've got a bigger space to shoot in. Not only is it easier practically, but also it's better for lighting, and it's usually better in terms of getting depth. Make yourself a playlist with as many different genres of music as possible, and then you can play this alongside your edit when you're choosing music, and that way your music doesn't always have to sound like this. Take advantage of the internet. Use it for research, for finding cast and crew and locations, but also for collaborating and sharing your work. Set yourself specific working times. If you can stick to it, then you'll find that you're more productive when you're working and more relaxed when you're resting. In general, try to avoid using pointless cuts where we can see 3 different angles of the same thing without learning anything new. Most of the time it's best to avoid doing things just because they look cool on screen. Find a small creative justification for it and you're fine. If it has a camera, make a film with your phone. You will learn so much. Depth is when the audience can distinguish between the foreground, the midground and the background. Going for a run is a great way to get some thinking time in without any distractions. It's also a great way to have a change of scene if you're struggling with some editing or some writing. No matter how likely it seems, you need to be ready for a project to fall through. It happens to absolutely everyone, whether it's a DP who stops responding to emails or a project that just suddenly runs out of money 2 weeks before production and suddenly you don't have a job. When you're working with actors, try and help them understand how the character is feeling, or even better, why they are feeling that way. I find that works a lot better than just kind of demonstrating what you want them to do. You can really easily rig a boom pole with just a piece of string and some kind of solid surface like a cupboard. No counterweights needed. Try to avoid using a medium close-up for every single shot. Eat well, get plenty of sleep and try and have fun. But also, don't be afraid to avoid lots of sleep, eat really badly and get through some stressful stuff for the cause of your film. Don't see rejection as a negative thing. Just call up 20 small businesses until one of them will let you make a promotional video for them. Call up 20 different locations until one of them will let you shoot at their location. It's just persistence, persistence, persistence. Positivity and general decency to other human beings goes a long way on set and in life in general. And last of all, feel free to check out the blog post which is linked below. That's got some extra tips, and if you want to send me some of your own advice then feel free to do that and I might just add it onto that blog post. But my name's Simon Cade, this has been DSLR Guide and I'll see you next week.